apparently I'm an MI6 Tory agent. According to the Iranian government, who banned me, they said if I go, they'll hang me. So I was forced to learn Quran. That kind of backfired on them. My generation and the new generation in Iran, all the kids, are either converting to Christianity or becoming atheists. I can show you oppression if you want to see oppression. I will show you actual poverty if you want to see poverty. You know, you're paying for your Sky TV, you're getting your cigarettes, and you're having 3 kids on benefits, and you're complaining that you don't have enough money. Instead of making me scared, it actually made me more brave. Over the last couple of years, I basically said, F it, I'm just going to go out and say whatever I want to say. I refuse to be complacent. This is war and no one's seeing it. And I'm not saying it, people are going to be like the left will go like, you're spreading hate, you're spreading division. No. We didn't start any of this. We're trying to defend it. We're trying to counterattack it. But on a very more on standby, basically, like a soldier. I see this as war and I'm a soldier. My mother taught me, make sure to always say when you're doing your videos or making a speech, don't turn England into another Iran.
Information covered up, censorship, corruption. The mainstream media have proven itself to be untrustworthy. I'm here to give a platform for debate, for truth, for open discussion. I'm introducing you to my podcast, Silenced with Tommy Robinson.
Who exactly is Tommy Robinson, or Stephen Getsley-Lennon?
With the English Defence League, the EDL.
The problem is with Islamic
The English far-right Islamophobic activists.
Since then, there's been organised protests across the country in London, Manchester, Leeds. People in their thousands are marching for what
There is no such thing in this country as a Muslim.
Free Tommy Robinson! Welcome to my latest edition of Silence, my podcast, where today I'm joined with what I call him the rising star. I'd say certainly the citizen journalist of 2023, moving into 24, Mahyar Tousi.
Well, thanks for having me.
It's all right, mate. It's my pleasure. I get encouraged. Do you know how encouraged I get when I see new people rise up? And new people rise up who aren't controlled, who are citizen journalists, who are working for themselves, giving their own opinion. And it's great to see, because whenever someone rises like this, I always think they're going to stop them. But you've got that big, that quick, it'd be hard to stop you now. So yeah. I'd love to just hear the man behind the headlines, who you are, starting at the beginning, Mahyar.
Yeah, it is crazy because obviously you get attacked by all sides. When you're more independent-minded, the other side accuse you of being, surely you're not independent, you're controlled by, I don't know, some sort of other group. But then
probably Zionists.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And then you got some people on technically should be on our side. They also like question you, like, we don't trust you. You're also funded by Zionists. I'm like, I wish they got a lot of money.
I know, I get that all the time.
Well, yeah.
Mahyar, where was you born?
So I was actually born in Tehran, Iran, the capital of Iran, and into a family that most of them already were pushed out after the 1979 paramilitary coup. They call it a revolution, I call it an Islamic paramilitary coup because it's an Islamic occupation. Most of our family, obviously we're not Muslim, so it was uncomfortable for them. But
your family were Muslims?
No, they were not Muslims.
They're not Muslims?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the Islamic revolutions happened, which when the mullahs have took control of Iran to implement Sharia? Yeah,
basically. And the Iranian regime is very underrated in terms of the narrative that we talk about when it comes to Islamism and everything else. Because everyone focuses on ISIS and Taliban, but actually the godfather of the Islamic expansion is actually the Shias in Iran, because everyone focuses on the Sunnis, so they made it uncomfortable, and let's just say my mother, who was not even political, she was actually saved by the British Embassy in a very rare case because she was chased by the morality police. The morality police obviously just check if you're covering your hair and all that nonsense. And she came, obviously she was brought here as an actual refugee, and I then was able to join her as a kid afterwards when she was confirmed, because I was under 18. So
just so people understand the morality police.
Yes.
Up until 1979 in Iran, it was free. You didn't have to cover your hair.
Yep.
Women dressed how they wanted.
Yep.
And the Islamic Revolution happened where the mullahs took over the control of the country, and then women were forced to cover their hair. So, and then they have these secret morality police who walk the streets and look for anyone who's not doing that.
Yes, not only covering your hair, but also women weren't allowed to have chewing gum, and not allowed to clap, dance, sing. For a while, men weren't able to have a short sleeve t-shirt, but then they gave up on that. So much. You weren't allowed to have Western music, but everybody had. And of course, satellite dishes were being doing crackdown on that. Basically, any fun was banned.
How old was you this? How old are you now?
I'm 35 now. I'll be 36 in a couple of months. Yeah.
Okay. So your mum's being chased by the rally police, and what she then claims asylum in the UK.
Yes, and if you want to talk to people who are concerned about illegal migration now and the type of people who are coming here, talk to my mum. She's more radical than me because she was questioned this years ago about the fact that why is it that mostly young military-age healthy men, where are the women, where are the children? For our family's case, obviously my dad stayed. He's actually obviously is stuck in Iran. He was under house arrest, there was a lot of chaos. But the vulnerable person in the family was the refugee, my mother, and obviously then me came here. Not the actual military-age men.
Yeah, so did your mum leave without you?
Yes, she had to, yeah.
Okay.
And so obviously I stayed with my dad for a while, and then I joined here.
How long did you stay? How long was your mum in the UK?
A year.
A year?
Yeah.
And then your dad come at the same time?
No, my dad isn't allowed, well, he's banned from leaving. I'm banned from going to Iran right now because apparently I'm an MI6 Tory agent. According to the Iranian government, who banned me, they said if I go, they'll hang me. But my dad used to come and visit as a tourist to kind of see me once a year. Then I got into politics, and he himself is a bit of a radical in Iran, protested.
Against
yeah.
And what religion is your dad?
Well, they're not really religious, but so my mum's side and dad's side, we got a bit of Christians in them, and Zoroastrians, which is the old Persian religion, basically. Okay. But they're mostly secular. Yeah.
So your dad's stuck there?
Yeah. And they took his passport away, so you can't even leave. Yeah.
When was the last time you saw your dad?
Over 10 years ago, probably 15 years ago.
Wow.
It's been insane, yeah. Yeah, last time I was able to see him was actually in Turkey. I went there, he went there, and the moment he got back into Iran, they didn't like it that he met up with me because apparently I'm a spy. So,
when did they start calling you a spy, and why?
So when I was young and naive, I was part of the Tory party.
Which makes you a spy.
And well, when I was at uni, this is about, I don't know, 13 years ago, whatever, 14 years ago, and so I got involved with the Tory associations and all that, and the moment I became political, they basically said, yeah, you're on the list now. And that was because it was all at the same time as, if those who remember, 2009, there was this fake election in Iran, they rigged it, the Green Movement. So they were really paranoid. They're always paranoid anyway, but they were paranoid about anybody who's outside of Iran who is speaking out.
About Iran.
Yeah, so there's basically a fatwa against me now that they want to kind of target me. They have tried in London, by the way. They tried to kidnap me. They follow me around every now and then. It's been a while now. But they follow you in a way that they want you to know you're being followed. Yeah, it's just mind games. They're not going to do anything. It's just, yeah.
Must make you crack.
Yeah,
pressure.
Yeah, luckily
Fear.
It doesn't work on me.
Okay, so let me go. So you've come to England at what age with your mum?
So I was old enough actually. I was probably 13.
Age 13, so you lived there till you were 13?
14, yeah. And
okay, so if you was in Iran till you was 13, what was it like growing up, and what was school like in Iran?
Oh God. So my mum always felt bad for me because she actually, as she grew up, she experienced life before the Islamic occupation, which was basically, Iran was like Israel now. Just, you know, liberal society, whatever you want to do. And obviously because of Sharia, they were forcing everything down your throat. So every school, the Islamic teachings and everything. So I was forced to learn Quran. That kind of backfired on them. My generation and the new generation in Iran, all the kids, are either converting to Christianity or becoming atheists or going back to Zoroastrian, because the idiots thought if they actually force you to learn the teachings, you're going to convert to Islam or you'll be more kind of Islamic. But the Persian culture, the Iranian culture in general, they're not the same as the Arabs anyway. So if they are exposed to the real text and the ideology of Islam, like my generation was, they're like, this is a little bit weird, let's just say. So actually it's all thanks to the Iranian regime that the new generation are becoming less Islamic.
They're rebelling.
Yes, yeah. It was crazy. Yeah.
Was it an all-boys school, mixed school?
No, yeah, so always separate. And I actually went to a small independent school, so it was actually, the education system there, despite all the stuff, was actually slightly better than here, because most schools were small independent, not really some sort of posh private. You know, it kind of not that expensive to pay, I think it is now. But even the private schools or independent schools were forced by the regime to follow certain rules, obviously all boys. And but we were mixed with, again, with different types of people. So there were kids of families who were pro-regime, and they were very much any sort of teaching in school, like some sort of, I don't know, teacher who was doing science. It was the kids and the parents who still put pressure on the teacher not to teach too much
Actual science.
Science, yeah, basically.
Because the Quran is their science.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the one thing is fascinating has happened over the last 20 years or so, even since I left, was that back then they were still teaching history of the Persian kings and the dynasties and everything else. They have now completely erased history. When you go to school in Iran, they only teach history of Iran post-Muhammad. So essentially, and of course they're Shia, so there have been a couple of imams, Shia imams who were in Iran, like Hussein and a few others, and they focus on them. They don't really talk about the kings anymore, or where the actual origin of the country came from.
Because they don't want the children to know their history.
Basically, yeah.
They want them to believe that that is their history.
Yes, yeah.
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
So I've got technically a half-sister from when my mother came here and got remarried. I don't really see her as a half-sister, I just see her as a sister.
Okay, so your mum come here and had a child here?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. When your mum left to claim asylum, were your mum and dad still together?
No, so they got divorced a year before anyway,
Okay.
so yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then you stayed with your dad and then you come over after a year.
Yeah.
So you come at 13. Talk to me as a 13-year-old boy. You've lived till you're 13 in Iran.
Yeah.
Under the Islamic regime. You then arrive where?
So for just a very ordinary middle-class kind of family in Iran, we ended up on a council estate in Lewisham, southeast London, under the Labour regime. So we went from the Islamic regime to Tony Blair's regime.
Which one was better?
So the interesting thing about this is, usually speaking, when people move to the developed world, there's a culture shock because they look up, they're like, oh wow, there's McDonald's here, or whatever. Without being arrogant, for me and my mum, it was actually, the culture shock was slightly the other way around, because we were looking around the area and the school that I had to go to, a comprehensive school, obviously state school, the standards were low. I was in year 10, 11, and we were doing algebra that I did when I was 6 years old in Iran. So for me, it was like, what is going on here? But one thing was quite clear. For me and my mum, despite the fact that technically it was a bit of a downgrade in terms of the standards of living, like the flats and everything else, we were still so grateful that we had finally opportunities and freedoms and got embraced by the generosity of this nation. And we were looking around, and people in those areas, obviously the more urban working class areas, everybody around me was complaining, even back then, the beautiful Labour government, that this is the worst country in the world, we're all going to die, and this is just the worst thing ever, Britain, England. And me and Mum was confused. We were like, what are they complaining about? I can show you oppression if you want to see oppression. I will show you actual poverty if you want to see poverty. You know, you're paying for your Sky TV, you're getting your cigarettes, and you're having 3 kids on benefits, and you're complaining that you don't have enough money. I could show you actual poverty. So, but my mother always taught me, because of this country saving her, and of course me, not only we have to be grateful, thankful every day, but also give something back. That was our duty, to become nationalists in this country. If this is going to be your new home, you need to embrace it. Don't always see yourself as the guest who was welcomed, but you have to make this your home. There are still many people, and many well-meaning migrants, immigrants in general, because they are from certain cultures, even if they want to integrate, they just can't. There's something in the back of their head, because of the pride that they have for their own original culture and heritage. They always would see themselves as foreigners. This country is really too actually soft but welcoming. You can easily integrate compared to like migrants in Germany or France. You can never become German, you can never become French or Danish, but here you can become British if you want to. Yeah.
Can I ask you, with that opinion on it, because America and Britain played quite a pivotal role, I believe, in the Islamic Revolution
Yeah.
of your country. So that means our governments
Yep.
played a role
Yep.
in the enslavement of your country's people.
Yeah.
Do you? Because so many people justify their anger against the hatred of Britain, yeah? Whether it be some of the Irish would have done, they still hate,
Yeah.
they don't now, but they would have done. Many people talk about history with the British Empire. It wasn't that long ago
Yeah.
that Britain had an involvement in what now has taken the freedoms away from Persian people in Iran.
Yes.
How do you sit on that?
It is interesting.
Because,
yeah. Obviously, there were the British had parts of the south of Iran a little bit, and the Russians in the north. Oil was involved, and then the Shah of Iran, obviously back in the 50s, called America saying, "Can you come help me get rid of these guys?" So Iran and America got close, and then in the 70s, America and Britain and France betrayed the Shah. So they actually trained the Islamic occupiers because they didn't want the communists from Soviet to take over. So you're right. There's been the Western globalists did certain things, but having said that, there's something I have spoken to many other Iranians and Persian Iranians and other Iranians in the West and here. Most of them have the same thinking as my mother, because I think that the Iranian culture is rich, like the Anglo-Saxons. So, for example, the Persians don't see themselves as Asians. We're very different. We're just here, and they have the story about their origins and their actual ethnicities and everything else. They had also empires and kings. The Iranians, like my mother and myself, we move on.
Yeah, because most Iranians that I've met in the West
Yeah.
are very patriotic
Yeah.
for Britain.
Yeah.
Most.
Yeah, because
But that's the thing. I look and think, but would I be angry as well? Would I be
No.
angry?
So you're right, there are other cultures, even as you said, the Irish against the Brits, if you have an Irish living in London, they're taking advantage of the opportunities of London, but they still have a problem with what happened 100 years ago.
Well, it gets to Paddy's Day and everyone sings IRA songs.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what Luton's like, I'm telling you. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, Luton, so my mum was Irish. It gets to St Patrick's Day and you've got loads of kids who've never been to Ireland standing on tables singing IRA songs. It's like, what are you doing?
I know, absolutely. Yeah. But I think most of the Iranians, and especially Persian Iranians, they understand things happen in history. They're pragmatic people. Also, it will be pot kettle, because they've also gone around in things under the Persian Empire. They know that was business. Yeah. And but they also, there are some weird coincidental similarities between the Persian culture and the British culture, which I can't really provide any scientific evidence, but in terms of attitude, compared to other neighboring countries and cultures in the Middle East, and of course even Europe, both Persians and Brits have the self-deprecating humor, sarcasm, dry humor, that politeness, holding the door. When you go to, like, for example, I don't know, France, every time you visit, like, Paris, you were like, why is this person not holding the door? Or stand on the right side of the escalators. But those attitudes are similar, the Persians and the Brits. So I think that's why it's easier to integrate.
And also, most people who've come here, like your mother,
Yeah.
have seen what it's like when Islam takes over your country.
Yeah.
So then they're witnessing what's happening here, or they can speak openly because they've got family members who are being oppressed under Islam.
My mother is completely freaking out right now. Oh, not just for me because of what I do, and obviously I'm in the public eye, but even for herself. And she's actually more worried for the country, for this country, because she's seen the rise of the Islamic ideology, which always goes hand in hand with basically anything that's anti-Western, so Marxism and all this. The same thing happened in Iran. In the 70s, there was a rise of basically the commies and the Islamists, and the population who was privileged, and they were a liberal society in Iran, they were having a great time. They were complacent. They didn't see it coming. And my mother taught me, make sure to always say when you're doing your videos or making a speech, don't turn England into another Iran. Remind people, because it could happen, and it's clearly happening slowly. Within the next 10, 20 years, 30 years, we're going to have a huge chunk of the House of Commons, MPs, being either really far left or obviously the Islamic. And this is basically a soft revolution, because if you have the House of Commons controlled by a different ideology, that's a different set of values, all they have to do is just make new legislation, change the constitution. They don't have to do a bloody revolution.
And when the communists that sided with the Islamists in the Iranian Revolution, what happened to them when?
Backfired massively. It's like
Just so people understand, if you're a communist and you're sitting here and or a Marxist and you're aligning yourself with the Islamic radicals because you hate democracy and hate freedom and you want to implement your system. Yeah. This has happened in Lebanon, it's happened in Iran. Yeah. What happened in Iran?
Yeah, especially if you're a chicken watching, advocating for KFC. Yes, the next day they were all hanged. All the communists. It was
all the communists who helped the Islamic Revolution.
Yeah, but the communists were actually leading the uprising against the Shah and against the monarchy and everything else. But it was also against capitalism, free speech, and freedom in general. They did the work. They did the hard work, backed by the Soviet Union. The Ayatollahs came last minute because they were being trained, especially Ayatollah Khomeini, the main supreme leader, by CIA when he was in exile in Paris. They trained him and started doing propaganda last minute to prevent the commies. So when the Ayatollah came, firstly, just like Jeremy Corbyn, he promised free oil, free bus passes to everybody. They also promised the communists, yeah, we're going to have a republic. You can have a political party. You can have elections. And then they had an election, and the commies all one by one disappeared. Yeah, basically.
Publicly hanged the next day, no?
Yeah, literally. Oh, it was bad. It was literally on the streets. And for a country like Iran with that culture and heritage, it was weird. Without being disrespectful to good people who are from countries like Lebanon or Iraq, but it's more normal to see that sort of barbaric scenes in Afghanistan, Iraq, or like obviously the bad days of Syria, but not in Iran. It's weird.
I've watched videos in Iran where they were talking about women being forced to wear the hijab in a comedy show. Have you seen it? Yeah. And the bloke, the whole crowd, they're talking. They want to make everyone wear the hijab.
Yeah, they're all laughing.
And the whole crowd are in hysterics, like as if we're going to be forced to wear the hijab.
Yeah.
Overnight.
It was crazy. Actually, there's another lesson we could learn.
Overnight, women now get killed. There's been revolutions, attempted revolutions by females. The only real feminists, I'd say, of our generation are the women of Iran.
And they're being completely ignored by all these liberal progressives who go out there every Saturday protest for Palestine. None of them are actually advocating for the feminist revolution in Iran. It's not feminist revolution, obviously, but it's a...
There was a recent one with the morality police. Again, they killed the lady.
The Mahsa Amini, who was the 23-year-old. It's still ongoing, by the way. The uprising is still ongoing. They have a slogan, women, life, freedom. And there's a second verse as well. Now, because when they chant, they say, women, life, freedom, man, prosperity, fatherland. If translation would be fine, because it's very, very kind of out of context, because of course the Iranians see themselves as Aryans, the original Aryans, so they call the country fatherland instead of motherland.
Okay.
So the BBC always gets confused when they show the chants in Iran, when they say, they actually do say, no Gaza, no Lebanon, our life is only for Iran, we're Aryan, but they don't mean they're Nazis. They just mean we're Aryan.
Anyone who hasn't, you really need to look into these uprisings by the females of Iran and look at and understand what they're going through and what they've gone through and how willing they are, I think, and how fearless they've been over the years. There was one point a couple of years ago when it really blew up, and I was thinking, I was watching it, and my mate's with an Iranian girl who's a refugee who can't see her family as well, And I know that at that time she was like, it's happening. She was crying, thinking freedom's coming to the people of Iran. These are the real people who are fighting for freedom. And then we've got, and all of our so-called freedom loving on the left are siding with Iran.
Not only that, because you said earlier, you were asking about kind of recent history with the Brits and the Americans' involvement in Iran and the Middle East.
Backfired massively. Now all the schools are chanting about death to the USA.
Well, yeah, I mean, it did definitely backfire, but the problem that the Iranians have is actually less with those guys, the British establishment back in the day, because they saw that as business. Fine, they just came, they did their thing. They have a bigger problem with the Western globalists. Now, specifically in Iran, there are proactive chants regularly against the US Democrats, because the reason that last year it kind of fizzled out a little bit, it's still ongoing, but kind of
it blew up,
because Joe Biden sided with the Iranian regime, gave them millions of dollars, again, billions of dollars.
Billions, right?
Yeah, and 2009, the previous uprising, the Green Revolution, Barack Obama took side with the Iranian regime, made the Iran deal instead of actually supporting the people. in the 90s.
And the people were crying out, each one of these revolutions, they're crying out to America, help us, help us, help us.
Yeah.
If ever there should be I could look at America and their geopolitics and how they get involved in other conflicts.
Yeah.
I will look at this, I think these people are oppressed and they're crying out every time for years. Women are being butchered in the street.
Yeah.
And you want to invade Afghanistan or Iraq.
And it's crazy. And then, again, they have been betrayed by the US Democrats all the time, Bill Clinton, Hillary. And you're right, if there were at any point there could be at least an academic case for humanitarian intervention, it would be this. But the Iranians also are smart enough to know, because they've seen what's happened before, they don't want to be liberated by the Western side. They want support. They do want support. And actually right now, the biggest allies that they have is Israel and in Iran. And they're very brave. Some of them, they're still going around either flying the Israeli flag or doing graffitis with the Star of David, because they know that the Jews and the Persians throughout history, they were always allies. And they know that Israel is already the boogeyman anyway. So they are trying to push Israel to hit the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. So not necessarily invade the country, but as long as they hit the nuclear sites and a couple of other, to weaken the regime so they could finish the job.
People can rise up.
Yeah, that's all they want. They don't trust the Americans anymore, they don't trust the British, because they see them as weak now. The leadership doesn't exist anymore. And they're looking at the likes of, the Putin and, Assad and all these guys. Not that they support them, because actually they don't like those guys, but they say, this is strong leadership. Why can't we have that? But good leaders, but strong.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get back to you. You've come to the UK, you're in Lewisham. You're 13. What's it like going to school? What was the demographics? What was it like as you're a refugee? Was there racism? Was there hostility?
Well, that's interesting. But so technically, son of a refugee, so I don't want to take too much credit for being a refugee. But so Lewisham was already very, let's just say, diverse back then, because it was more urban, working class anyway. Mostly the black community. So we had like 4 white kids in my class, one of them ginger, and then the majority black, but British black, and there were a few other just different places. That was the beginning of more the multiculturalism. So you had like Bangladeshi and a few other cultures, Pakistanis. So a couple of things, especially for someone who came from a place that didn't really see different skin colors like black people, you would think that, as a normal human, you'd be like, oh, these are people, they're different people. No, we saw all of them as just British. It's all about attitude and behavior, not skin color, because the black British kids were just British anyway. They were doing everything that the white kids were doing. And was actually, the only racism I got was actually from a couple of kids from Pakistan in the school who tried to beat me up because I was Iranian. So they had a problem. And I always tell people, if you want to see real racism, I'll take you to like Asia and Africa and the Middle East. The neighboring cultures hate each other. Yeah. You think, the English make jokes about the Irish. That's nothing. That's actual racism that they have. But back then, there was harmony in society in the neighborhood. Everybody was basically English and British. But now, my mother was still there till recently, and now she's decided to flee that area and move to Essex with her husband, who's from Essex, to actually have a peaceful life.
So it's not white flight. Can we correct? Because it's not white flight, yeah? Because what they used to call white flight has now totally changed, because the blacks, certain other demographics are all leaving as well. They're trying to get out of the now densely populated migrant.
It's because, so even though 20, 25 years ago, in terms of skin color, you could see it's more darker than white, but actually no one cared. But now, that same area, you actually started to have actual multiculturalism, so literally different cultures, mostly the different Islamic cultures. People forget there are different cultures inside the Islamic culture, because the Shias and Sunnis also hate each other. And then what's turned out to be now, in the same area, in Lewisham, is basically part of Lewisham is no longer multiculturalism, is one culture dominating over the others. So even the British black community...
Can we ask which culture it is that's dominating?
It's crazy. The Christian black British community, even they are fleeing. They're like, we can't even go to a mosque. We can't even go to a church without being accused of being infidels or whatever. Yeah. It's insane.
So you've done that at 13. Did you enjoy school in England? Did you...
Well, I was
academic?
I was always a rebel and a contrarian. And clearly I was smart enough to get good grades when I was back in Iran. But I was always lazy anyway. But what made it worse was the school day education standards here was so low. As I said, we were doing things in year 10 and 11 where I was getting bored, because I did this when I was 6. And so that actually made me be worse at school. And I started bunking off school, year 11, after lunch, and no one cared. And this is where you need to bring back traditional values, even, let's go extreme, Victorian standards, because for a kid, you need discipline. They didn't care that I disappeared after lunch.
Do you mind if I ask as well, if when you come here to live with your mum and your father's not there, did that play a role in a bit of your direction for those few years? Was it a struggle? Did you miss your dad? Did you miss having a fatherly figure?
That's a very interesting question. I didn't think about it before a lot, but actually as I grew up, I realized the importance of the father figure. So my mother had to play both roles, and she did a good job. She was a dictator, so my dad became the cool guy. But it is very important. Luckily, I was still in touch with my dad regularly, so he still gave me his wisdom and everything else. And his wisdom is very much, he's one of those dads who just basically teaches you boys will be boys. He didn't try to he encouraged me to make mistakes, because then certain dads try to be like, no, don't do this, don't touch that, don't do this. Actually, I'm so glad I had a dad who basically taught me to be brave and take risks, but take responsibility.
And learn from those mistakes.
Start drinking beer, but if you get a hangover, it's your fault, basically. But yeah, it was difficult.
Did mum work?
So obviously with my mother, that was also a big culture shock for her, because back in Iran she was a housewife. And she came here, then obviously she had the second husband and everything else there, didn't work. But then afterwards she had to then get a job. She had an option to be on benefits. She was like, I don't understand the concept. She just didn't get the concept. There was a lot of Iranians back in Iran were interviewed by CNN a few years ago. They're like, what do you like from your government? They're like, freedom, let us have a job, let us have businesses. The same interview went to America to interview, what do you want from the government? Free healthcare, free benefits. So my mother became an NHS nurse for Great Ormond Street.
Okay.
And for a few years, but it became difficult for her and her health and everything else. She left, and she did some stuff with flower arranging. I don't know what she does, florist basically. Okay. Started her own small business and things like that. But she had to do everything on her own basically. Yeah.
You've left school. Did you leave with your GCSEs? What did you do when you left school? Did you go to college?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, thanks to Tony Blair, the education system was messed up back then. So when I came here, I didn't actually have time to finish year 10 completed properly. So year 11 was my full year. Even at the end when I did my GCSEs, they didn't give me my GCSE because you had to do both years. And now year 10 is a mock year.
Okay, yeah.
So I had to go to college in Lewisham. And
to redo GCSEs?
Basically BTEC.
Yeah.
And so I was basically 2 years behind everybody else now. And so I finished, then I didn't really have a plan, so I thought, well, apparently go-to option is university. Then I'm looking back, that was again the product of Tony Blair's government. They pushed everybody to go to uni instead of actually looking at different opportunities. Yeah. I wasted 3 years at uni and money and everything else. I studied finance and economics and all that, fine, I understand certain things. But,
where did you go to uni?
Manchester Met, so the cool university. Less academic, but more fun. Okay. we knew how to party. I only chose Manchester because of Old Trafford. Literally, I was like, I want to get a season ticket.
You said you're a Man United fan?
Yeah, I'm from London, obviously I'm a United fan. So I was 2 years behind at this point, but it was a waste of time. But uni really helped with one thing, exposure to life. And that's when I became even more political. I actually got involved with the Tories and all that.
At university?
Yeah, that's the only thing that the university days gave me, not the actual some sort of degree that could help me with a career. That was a waste of time. Not everybody should go to uni.
No, I agree.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I don't want my kids to go to uni.
Also, with all these new courses, well, lesbian dance theory, well, what am I going to do with that?
And most courses are useless. They're just, So you've gone to Manchester. Was that a change? Because Manchester's a great city. Well, it was.
He was, yeah, he was. And well, no, because I was always a city boy anyway. So I was in the capital in Iran, then obviously London. I think that was the other reason I chose Manchester over like a campus university. I think it was out of fear. The city was more comfortable for me, which is kind of weird compared to other people. But that was also the first time I was actually exposed to more northern people and compared to London, all these northern kids going to uni.
What did you think when you met northerners compared to southerners?
They were so lovely. The first 2 weeks I didn't pay for drinks. No, yeah, I mean, we actually...
So you've grown up in London. See, I see London as a country in itself.
Yes.
Very different people, totally different.
Yeah.
Step out of London, you meet different communities as well. So
Yeah.
you've gone to the north. You're meeting northerners.
Yeah.
Good fun.
Yeah. Also, very good-looking women and girls, but I was incredibly bad at social skills in terms of trying to date. So
With women?
yeah, I didn't succeed at uni. No,
No?
no.
At all?
I was a late bloomer.
Oh, was you?
Yeah.
Okay, how late?
Well,
Have we?
early 20.
Early what, 20s?
Yeah, like 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was interesting because it was.
So you've gone 3 years through uni and you didn't?
Well, I did at
There
the
you
end. I did at the end.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Then you got into the British culture.
Then I couldn't stop.
So you've gone to uni, you come out your degree. Talk to me about getting involved in politics at university. How does that happen?
So it was interesting.
And why did that happen?
I didn't realize it was always hardwired. When I got involved, then I realized, oh, it makes sense because if you're from certain countries, I would include countries like Russia and Iran and certain countries that are people automatically, even as kids, you know, when you wake up, you have to check the newspapers, you have to check the news. It affects your life. Obviously, it always affects you, but in the West, you become kind of complacent because things are relatively stable, relatively peaceful and prosperous. But those places, anything could happen at any point. So without realizing, I was always wired when it comes to finding out what's going on anyway. Then as I grew up in my teenage years, I just got into learning about Hayek and Milton Friedman and Ayn Rand. And before I became a Tory, I knew I was at least economically kind of free market capitalist, but also individually speaking, societally, I was like a libertarian. So when I was just getting involved with politics, I knew that at that point in this country, the Tory party was a closer option, even at the time.
When you talk about free market capitalists, because I'd say as a working class kid,
Yeah.
I grew up knowing nothing about any of it. Any of it. If someone said, what's capitalism? I don't know.
Yeah.
What's communism? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I didn't really care, in all honesty.
This was a shock I had. But I already knew about it since I was a kid, but when I came here, I was talking to like friends and like teenagers. No one knew anything about anything. I was like, this is a problem. We're clearly having a problem because we're not teaching, and it's not just about that. It's a basic education about the British values, British constitution, the basic stuff, nothing complicated. We're not teaching that. And when we teach that, for example, capitalism versus communism, I've seen how they teach it. I had friends who were teachers, secondary school and uni. It's propaganda. They teach.
In what way?
They teach like capitalism, the caricature version. They focus on the I don't know, the Victorian days, the Industrial Revolution days, by factory owner will own you. Like no, but free market capitalism is supposed to be just the platform where you just exchange goods for goods or money. And the reason they did this propaganda, I realize, the system wanted this over the last few decades because the system basically replaced it now. We're not going towards communism. We're going to a new version of it, which is corporatism. Basically, big government and big business going hand in hand to control you. They don't want free market capitalism. They don't want actual freedom.
They want mass corporations to control and everyone works.
They want control. Yeah,
few
they're scared of actual too much freedom. It's also because people don't really want too much freedom. People don't want to take responsibility. Freedom comes with responsibility. We saw what happened during the lockdown days. After the Project Fear that started, following that, it was actually the population who were too scared. They were the ones putting pressure on Boris Johnson and a few others
to lock us back down.
Keep doing more lockdowns. Like people want the thing is people are the masses. You have to be careful. If you scare them enough, they become the tyrants. So the same thing happened again in Iran, in Soviet Union, the Russian Revolution. The smart dictators use the people against people. They get them to be scared. They use them.
They've done it with COVID because it was all your neighbours who were turning on you.
Exactly.
Grassing you up.
Yeah.
People you might walk in without a mask and it's all the other people wearing a mask. Where's your mask? So what are you, the police?
It is interesting. But you asked about obviously uni and politics. The reason that final trigger for me to join a political party at the time and Tories was a very interesting story. A friend of mine took me to a Labour Society drinks with students. I walked in. The first person came and said, "Hi, what's your name?" I was like, "Hi, Mahyar. Where are you from?" "London." And he was like, "No, where are you from?" I was like, "Oh," I didn't mind. I was like, "Oh, I'm Iranian, Persian." And he turned around the room. comrades, our new Iranian brother. And it was just patronizing, condescending nonsense. They went to the Tories drinks next night.
Which one was his first one? Labour?
This was the Labour one.
Okay.
They're patronizing, basically kind of being obsessed with kind of my race and identity. The next night went to the Tory drinks. The first person came and said, "Hi, what's your name?" Mahyar. First question was, "Did you watch the football last night?" No one cared about the actual kind of identity or whatever. The Labour side, they pushed me to actually, and that was a new Labour. That was like the more liberal Labour. They pushed me to be like, F it, I'm just going to go to the Tories. And that was David Cameron's Tories.
How old was you at this time? First Tory meeting?
This is about 2009-10. So, so David Cameron.
Was that you coming out of university, still in university?
Beginning of uni. So,
Beginning of uni?
Yeah.
Because I'd say it's probably changed now within universities from then and now. Was it easy to be a Conservative Tory member at university? Was there hostility towards them? Was there aggression on campus to do with politics, or wasn't there? I'd say there is now. But
yeah, it was easier to a point because the Tory movement or any right-wing movement was smaller and softer. So it was still David Cameron's Tories, even though it was at the same time as the tuition fees protests and all the Socialist Workers' Party and all these weird people. But it wasn't as scary as now, let's just say.
Yeah.
It's completely mental now.
Yeah, people wouldn't. I don't think people would say they're a Tory at university.
No. We used to say it. At least, they used to make fun of us. That's it. They were like, "Ha ha, you're a Tory." Now you get stabbed.
Now they want to attack you.
Yeah.
Which now is producing a generations coming out of university with one mindset.
Yes.
They've got the influence of the next generation of university graduates are all coming through with one vision.
And they did.
There's no healthy debate there.
No.
It's not healthy to have that coming out of the education system. When you have two sides that have opposing views in universities, probably you can have some healthy debate and people can make their own mind up like you went to the Tories.
Well, they did exactly what Chairman Mao in China or Stalin in Russia were trying to do by force, putting a gun to your head. But they did this softly and slowly throughout decades by infiltrating the academia and the media and everything else. The outcome is the same. They've created sheep and people who are scared to speak out. So back in the day, that one person who wanted to be a rebel in Nazi Germany or Stalin's like Russia, they would stand up and they get shot. Right now, it's not that the fear of there's a gun to your head. If you stand up, you get cancelled. You might even go to jail.
And everyone's going to turn on you.
Basically, yeah.
See you as a figure of hate.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've joined the Tory party, the Conservative Party, just as a basic member, or did you become an activist?
Yeah, activist, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. But it was back in the day when the young Tories were actually very active and they actually existed. Right now it doesn't exist. It's just a I don't know, propaganda where on the website, yeah, we have young Tories. No, you don't. But there was a reason they had to stop it because we got a little bit controversial.
What are you saying, that the Conservative Party don't have a young Tory membership?
They have young members.
They don't have a young
but
movement.
they don't have a movement. And
That's going to be so damaging for them
Yes.
as we go forward in elections.
Exactly.
The next generation.
Exactly. They stopped it in 2015 because of some scandals that happened.
What sort of scandals? Parties?
Yeah, but I mean, it got out of hand. But before that, the young Tory movement was very active. So you had elections and stuff, and it got toxic. And they saw it as a bad thing. I'm looking back. I'm like, actually, it was a good thing because it manned people up. People like were experiencing. It was like practice for actual politics. You know, it was nonsense. Yeah, people were doing campaigns and stabbing each other back for like a Tory youth committee position. But actually, that was a good practice.
Because that's what's going to happen in real life.
Yeah, now they don't have that practice anymore. But it got controversial, and stories came out, bullying and things like that. They shut it down. Instead of fixing it, they shut it down. And now, not only we don't really have, firstly, the Tory party is just going crazy anyway, but we don't really have young people thinking that they want to be a Tory, let alone actually be in practice. You can look at the new Tory MPs from 2015. So 2017, 2019, the new intake, even the young ones, are a bunch of wishy-washy wet lettuces who are just yes men who say yes to the Tory central machine because that's the only way they will get selected. They don't have their own mind anymore. Even people like David Cameron and George Osborne, we would disagree with them politically, but they had their own independence back in the day when they joined, when they go into kind of rising up. They had the freedom, like, hey, we are going to be implementing our vision for the Tory party, liberal Tories and whatever you want to call it. At least they had conviction.
Yeah.
Wrong conviction, but they had their own conviction. Right now, everybody's a puppet. And then that's why they're all standing down. And most of the Tory MPs who are standing down in the next election are the new MPs, because they realize, oh, they just wasted their time. All that money, sacrificing their family.
Stand down because they're going to get voted out.
Oh, exactly. They have no
And
choice.
they know it. Yeah, that's why they're standing down.
Yeah.
They're gone.
Terrified, yeah.
So, at which point, Mahyar, which point do you become public? Like, which point did this change for you? When you start making videos?
Oh, so...
Which point do you go from activist to what was your career path then? What was your job path from there?
So, my 20s, when I was an activist, I worked in Parliament for like a few months, but I never actually worked in politics. I always had normal jobs, but I was doing activism on the side. It was actually post-Brexit and basically post-2015 days, when they also shut down the youth movement. I was already seeing it that people like me, because we were already more radical, we are not going to be able to be welcomed in completely. So forget about trying to be an MP, Mahyar, the Tory MP.
Is that what you wanted to be?
Yeah, I think
You
at first. Yeah, everyone was naive at some point. And the Brexit campaign happened, and I was involved with that. And so we did that. And afterwards, I was like, okay, so Brexit's over now. Well, the campaign is over. I don't want to get back into the Tory activism. What do? So I just continued with my work. But then 2017,
What work?
18...
What work was you doing at that time?
Oh, just terrible. Well, not terrible. I just didn't like it. I was in sales for tech startup companies.
Okay.
Just classic London office jobs.
Living in London?
Yeah, just being
Financially struggling?
Basically, I mean, to a point where, I mean, again, without sounding, this is like privileged again, because like, I'm looking at like actual poverty in other continents, even in Iran. Still make money, but not good money, like probably like, I don't know, 25k, 30k with a beer that was still about £6-7 even at the time.
And your rent's big money in London?
Oh yeah, the rent was completely crazy. But 2017-18, when Theresa May failed Brexit, that was when I started making random YouTube videos. It was more like a hobby, and it was more like a personal diary. I was just frustrated, so I just wanted to get my thoughts out. It wasn't any plan to like, oh, I want to be a YouTuber, I want to do this. But then the more she messed up, the more my videos became about actually showing people what the media is not showing them about the Brexit negotiations. So 2019, my channel kind of started to kind of blow up slowly. Brexit happened. It became a Brexit channel at first.
Okay.
And then 2020 became a lockdown channel, because I was basically just telling them, well, the truth, or like basically challenging the mainstream narrative about lockdown, about all those stupid things they were doing. And then after that, it just became a daily news channel. And I realized, then I came up with a slogan. Actually, my former producer, Lacey Butcher, came up with a slogan, "We are the media." It just came to us randomly, because I realized there's a gap in the market, and people are moving away from traditional TV and all that, and not just because people don't watch TV, it's because they don't trust them. And that was the time when slowly people were starting to see things differently. When people were hearing about Tommy Robinson back then, they were only seeing newspaper headlines and a BBC headline saying, Tommy did something bad, he got cancelled. Back in like 2015, 2016, whatever it was. But since then, people were starting to see things for themselves. And it was the rise of all of us, the independent journalism and broadcasters and commentators. And that changed everything. And it gave me a purpose, finally. Moved away from wanting to be a Tory MP to like, I finally know what I have to do now. And this is also, my mother told me, this is what you have to do. This is what I told you as a kid, you have to give something back. You have to fight for this new home, your new country. This is how you do it. Because clearly, the rest of the so-called white English liberals are burying their heads in the sand.
Happy to give it away.
They're burying their heads in the sand.
Not just burying their head, they're giving it away.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
They're facilitating it.
Yeah. So
the destruction of the great country that they've...
Yeah, apparently it's a job of a foreigner to save this country instead of the actual natives. It's crazy stuff.
At what point did you understand, because you just said you realised this was your path.
Yeah.
At which point did that moment click?
It was when, this is again post 2015-16, when you had the rise of the new media, and all of you guys also, and everybody in America was happening. And I was seeing, I was like, okay, this is good. But then the moment I saw the establishment coming for every single one of them, everyone got cancelled. Sometimes for the right reason, sometimes for the wrong reason. Sometimes they messed up, sometimes not. Whether it was Milo Yiannopoulos, whether it was Tommy, whether it was Ben Shapiro. Everybody got cancelled for different reasons. Sometimes they deserved it, sometimes they didn't. And I was like, okay, the one time that we had a chance, everyone's getting basically disappearing, like the Soviet Union. So I thought, let's try something different. And my journey has been an evolution with my channel. I had to start kind of softly and being more cautious. I couldn't really come out like first day and say EDL. I couldn't do that. That would have been crazy. but I had to focus on Brexit. Then slowly, the system, even going against everybody even more now, instead of making me scared, it actually made me more brave. Over the last couple of years, I basically just said, F it, I'm just going to go out and say whatever I want to say.
Do you think it's become more acceptable as well?
That's the thing. I think
it's you saying what you're saying now, 7 years ago, people might have wanted to jump on you.
we are becoming mainstream. So, for example, if I were to have Tommy on my channel 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I'll be hanged on the street. If you were to
and
talk,
the comments would probably be against you.
Even the so-called conservative-leaning people, they would say, "Oh, that's not a good idea." If I were to talk, if anybody was to talk about immigration, basic immigration, like control, you would still get. People remember in the 2000s that the Blair years, you couldn't even talk about controlled immigration. With Gillian Duffy, who was one of the voters in, I think it was Rochdale, who had a chat with Gordon Brown.
The one who was on Question Time, right?
No, on the street.
Oh, on the street, and he whispered, and he said, what did he say?
Bigoted woman.
Bigoted woman,
She just simply asked about controlled immigration. He called her, as Prime Minister of this country, bigoted woman. So now, most of the things that back then was a taboo is actually mainstream now. Obviously, Brexit, leaving the EU, was also a taboo. Mainstream conversation. Immigration, mainstream conversation. Being able to have, again, people like Tommy, part of discussion, more mainstream now. Obviously, they're still trying to crush every single person, but
not with the public.
They can't control. The public have decided, basically. It's also the failure of the mainstream narrative. So not just BBC and Skies, but even some of the newcomers, whether it's Talk TV or GB News, that promise radicalism. People forget. Of course, they're not going to do that because they are still corporate backed. They claim to be against the corporate media, but they literally have corporate money. Like we build things from scratch with no financial backing, and this is the real grassroots journalism and broadcast.
Can't you explain, before we come in here, me and you were talking privately, and you explained that at times people may have wanted to offer you money, but you've refused it, in the sense that you don't want anyone to have a corporate control of you?
Yes, and that there have been individuals with big money. By the way, most of them well-meaning people. They weren't really offering it to control me. Yeah. They actually just wanted to help. But I knew myself. I'm a contrarian. I just can't, and I'm against authorities, so I can't really be part of a team. That's why I failed in all my jobs and school. I kept jumping, but they will inevitably.
Probably why you're successful, bro.
Yeah. So this is advocacy against schooling. But I knew that inevitably it is actually part of capitalism. If you have an investor giving you all this money, of course he's going to have demands saying, at least check how is it going. I just didn't want to answer to anybody, and I think it was the right decision. My channel has been going for a few years now. It's been growing quite well, but in terms of the actual infrastructure of it, slowly. So the following is going up. We're now about 420,000 subscribers.
What's your reach now? Do you know?
So now it's kind of, the demographic is kind of more international. Therefore, for the first 2-3 years, it was mostly UK based, so like 90% UK, because I was talking about UK politics. And I was talking back in the day with some of our probably mutual friends who are also in the same market doing new media. They were telling me, this is going to fail. You're talking about British politics, it's boring. You should follow us and talk about American politics. You probably know who I'm talking about. And good people, but that's what they have to do. I managed to make British politics sexy. We're talking about it because we have problems here. We have to talk about it. But now, because of everything else going on around the world, and it's not really just about the whole Israel and Hamas thing, but it's everything else that's affecting it. So the rise of Islamism and all these threats in the Netherlands and Australia and Canada. So I now have people watching from everywhere. The UK percentage on my channel is now about 60%, 65%. You know, got 10% America, 10% Canada, 5% Australia, got everywhere now. And we are reaching basically a global base that, again, even the likes of GB News or Talk TV could dream of. But they don't understand how we do it, and they don't understand why they're failing.
Why would you say they're failing? Why would you say? Because am I right? Would I be right if I said that you made a video, you do a live stream? I'd say your live stream's gonna get more views than GB News.
Yeah, it's because
Why?
So people are becoming, despite the fact that we've got the rise of social media and everything is becoming more techy and clinical, humanity always thrives for the human touch. So it's a weird example to use, but there's a reason that there is a rise of OnlyFans over Pornhub, because even though they're both basically porn, but people like OnlyFans because they like to interact with the actual content creator than just watch something. So it's the same reason that like my model works and people.
So
who
are you
do
an
the same
OnlyFans
thing.
guy or a Pornhub guy?
No, because at this point, people don't want to go home, sit on the sofa, turn on the TV, just looking at a talking head, telling them what they should think.
Yeah, they want the live interactions and the
They want
comments,
that.
and they want to be
Yeah.
part of it.
But
They
also-
feel part of a movement at times.
That to belong to something. And people say, the people who watch our stuff, they say, we don't like the media because they're biased, we like it because you're not biased. They're wrong, but I know what they mean. It's not the bias that people have a problem with, it's the dishonesty. When Sky News, for example, claims to be impartial, but we know, you can see in their facial expression at least, you're being biased. People already know my biases.
They know your opinions,
But
anyway.
yeah,
But you're not
because
claiming to be anything else.
I give the facts first, I add my opinion. At the end of the day, I still say, don't even let me tell you how to think. Think for yourself. They like that model. Just be human. And all these corporate media channels, even the new ones, is spending millions of pounds on a big studio unnecessarily with army of producers. Why do you need 5 producers for one show? It's insane. Completely insane.
At which point, have you seen a personal change? Are you now recognised when you go down the streets in London?
Yeah, I mean...
Is that good? Is that bad at the minute?
So for the first couple of years, it was good because people were coming to me and say, oh, hi. A lot of black cab drivers, all more normal people coming and say hi. And I was actually feeling left out for a couple of years, until recently.
Because you weren't getting no grief.
Where is the hate? I was like, everyone else getting hate. And now it's here, and it's bad now.
Explain that.
So when the Saturday protests against Israel started, which by the way is an anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, because it's not pro-Palestine, because they literally started on the first night and the second night after 7th of October to celebrate before Israel even tried to do self-defense. So we know exactly what they are. And even at first, some of them were like looking at me when I was filming, but it was passive-aggressive. Now, it's gone beyond that. It's not just about the protests, because I'm also speaking out even more against the threat of Islamism, but also the double standards of policing when they treat one Christian silent praying on a pavement, arresting her, when then the Islamic side, with all the mosques around the country, they block the road to do mass prayers on the streets. When I'm talking about this, I can feel the danger now that Salman Rushdie felt. I mean, there's already a fatwa against me anyway from the Iranian regime. But
I was going to say, when you say there's a fatwa against you, I wonder if people watching this understand how serious that is, coming from the Iranian regime.
yeah.
That means that there's big money put up for you to be killed.
Yeah, I mean, basically, there could be hitmen, but more like rogue.
Or they hope that they encourage
Some
extremist
jihadists, yes,
some
exactly.
jihadists to take the call, someone down Speaker's Corner to finish them off.
You won't be a government person, yeah.
No, they
yeah.
don't need to be a government person.
No.
Just put the call out.
Exactly. So, but now I can feel, because they know where I live now. They know, basically, they know things about me. And
you know, when you say they know where you live now, because again, how does this change? You're doing your work. You're talking about politics. You're talking about Brexit. You shift on to start talking about other issues: Islamism, radicalisation, Israel, Palestine,
everything. Yeah.
How does that change your feeling day to day? When you say know where you live, are you sitting at home thinking, are you worried? Are you concerned? Is your mum worried?
Okay, so I'm not going to do neither the kind of scared victimhood thing, nor the kind of unnecessarily hero arrogant thing. But the real truth is, obviously, I'm still human, so you still sometimes, when you're in a certain place, you feel that, ooh, something could happen. But One thing that really helped me is where I was born and where I grew up at first. Every single day as a kid, especially as a teenager in Iran, who was already basically a rebel, and my family, we were already on standby every single minute anyway. What we do, how we walk, how we talk, and what we eat. That kind of existence paranoia, which by the way is nothing good. No human should go through that because it's bad for your mental health and everything else, but it kind of makes you stronger. So I'm not really like scared on a daily basis being anxious or like oh my God, but on a very more on standby basically, like a soldier. I see this as war and I'm a soldier. You will be scared at times, but you have to slap yourself, man up, defend yourself, and anything could happen. But so far, there's been just isolated, random incidents, but not to be complacent. Things that also happen to you where people shout at you. Luckily, that's usually where it ended most of the time. But you never know. At one point, someone could just escalate it or throw something at you, whatever.
As your profile grows.
Yeah.
You just described yourself as a soldier.
Yeah.
Why are you willing? Soldiers fight.
Yeah.
Soldiers risk.
Yeah.
Why are you willing to fight and risk?
Because I do believe in the basic concept of why we are here, even as humans on this planet, but also as part of our tribes. I do believe in traditional values where my role as a man, obviously, first, survival. Secondly, protect your tribe, my family, and of course, my neighborhood, my town, my country, because that's part of us as humans to survive. And we got nothing else. If you can't have a safe home, you have two options. You can distract yourself and I'm just going to bury my head in the sand and just go to work and get drunk after work and go on Instagram. But the inevitable is going to come anyway. The downfall will come anyway. The fall will come. The enemy will come. And you guys are all being complacent. I refuse to be complacent. This is war and no one's seeing it. And I'm not saying it, people are going to be like the left will go, you're spreading hate, you're spreading division. No. We didn't start any of this. We're trying to defend it. We're trying to counterattack it. And we're not spreading hate. We're not trying to divide society. They already started to divide society. And I've got supporters who are white, black, brown, Muslim, Christian, Jew. They're all on my side saying, yes, we need to speak out. But I tell them, if you talk about the Islamic, the rise of the Islamic kind of ideology, the so-called Western, self-claimed moderate Muslims, come out now, speak out. Of course, the Western moderate Muslims are basically what they're called non-practicing Muslims. They're basically they drink beer, whatever they want to do. But speak out. Yeah, they're just born into God's commandment. Some are scared, but there's still some of them who are still traditional in terms of families. They still have that the Islamic mentality of, should I really go against my brothers, my Muslim brothers? That needs to be removed. That ideology needs to be removed. The moment you get Christianity evolved and got better because everybody debated with each other, they called out each other, and they're nonsense. But you're not going to get from the Islamic side. You cannot reform Islam. Islam is a fixed text.
I was just going to ask you that. Do you see this happening? Do you see that ever happening?
No, there are idiots who go around saying, oh, no, but Islam is younger than Christianity. A few hundred years, Christianity got reformed. There's different. The Islamic text is a fixed text with a stamp on it. You can't even edit it. Islam cannot be reformed. Muslims can. And it's their responsibility as well. So Christianity got reformed and many other things. Even socialism reformed itself technically. Social democrats they call themselves now. But Islam can't. So it's the job of Muslims. We got actually an imam, a Shia from Iran who escaped to Australia, Imam Tawhidi, for those of you who know on YouTube. He's great, and he kept himself as the imam on purpose to tell people, you can't reform Islam, but you have to try to reform Muslims. And again, they have to reform themselves. Otherwise, there's no way any of this is going to change.
Okay, you're on your path of journalism. You've become a great journalist, if I may say. People like to watch you. You don't want to be an MP, whereas originally you did. Give me your opinion on Reform.
Reform UK? Yeah. So,
You was at the recent
Yes.
opening?
Yeah, Reform UK again another alternative party, obviously trying to, but initially they sold themselves as the new UKIP or new Brexit party. And by the way, some of them are good friends. This is not personal. There is an opportunity, but in this country we have to decide where we are. We are talking about the centre-right. We talk about conservatism. Whether we like it or not, there's not much enough space for centre-right or right-wing in general. There's only a place for one party. So either, back in the day, try to fix the Tory party. If you can't, destroy it and replace it with a new one. So it could be Reform.
Is that what's happening now?
But they're trying, not yet, because the Tory party is still the establishment party. They still have the backing, the financial backing and everything else. You need to bring it down first. And then, whether you're UKIP, whether you're Heritage Party, whether you're Reform, then you come and replace them. The problem we have is Reform UK are trying to be professional. They have some good ideas as well, but they're trying to be Tory light, and they're trying to basically be like a better Tory party, like professional. While the Tories exist, that's going to fail. By the way, they could still, in a very short-term way, they could have a boost, or they could do well. If Nigel comes back and lead them, they could do well.
He's about to come back and lead.
I think he's going to have to.
He's going to announce that he's coming back and leading.
Yeah. They could have a short-term boost. They could even get 1 or 2 MPs and get big numbers. But if you don't have a long-term goal, plan, you're not going to be able. You need to either join the Tory party, all of you, take over and reform it, or kill it. So when you still have UKIP still trying to fight and Reform UK trying to fight, and you've got, the smaller parties and everybody else, Britain First and Heritage, and of course there's a battle of egos as well. But they don't even know why they want to be the right-wing party. That is the problem. And again, some of them are still friends of mine, all these parties, even UKIP guys. Why do you want to be this country's main right-wing party? Explain it. And with what capacity, what support, what plan? Because we want one of them to do it, all of them together.
We need one of them to
do it. And it feels like, obviously, the basic conservatism and right-wing mentality is more reactionary compared to the more progressive side, which is more proactive. But we are now the new cool kids. We are the counterculture. We are the revolutionaries. So we can't be reactionary. We have to be proactive. We have to offer ideas. We can't just react to things. The Tory party is doing that. Reacting to events is not enough. You need to provide alternative solutions, like Marine Le Pen. Marine Le Pen is providing alternative solutions. Wilders provided alternative solutions. He didn't just sit there like...
And Wilders was brave, man. And Wilders didn't play the politically...
No.
Play to their tunes.
Yeah.
Reform, are they still playing to their tunes?
Yeah.
You can be an ex-member of the IRA. You can be an ex-communist extremist. You can be an ex-member of Al-Mujahideen, a terrorist organisation. And you can join Reform UK, if I'm right. You can't be an ex-member of the English Defence League. Like, what the fuck? What sort of policy is that? Like, what are you talking about? What did the English Defence League do wrong other than warn you of everything you're looking at now? Yeah. I mean, like these sort of policies, for me, it's like, well, it's just political correctness. You're just weak.
It's the taboo.
Again.
It's the taboo. I mean, the worst thing, and as you were there, like the worst things that you could say about the certain moments of EDL is like people getting drunk and say things. But the worst thing you could say about the actual radical crazies, like whether it's right wing or left wing, far right, far left, actual groups, they had manifestos and ideologies that were dangerous. But you have a problem with some football lads getting drunk. What the hell? It's crazy.
Tousi TV. Talk to me about Tousi TV. Where's that going?
So,
what's your plan?
So until a year ago, it was.
And again, has this been just ask, because did you plan where you are now, or have you organically just thought, I'm just going to follow this, see where it goes?
It was all organic, no plan, mostly because I don't plan. I'm terrible at all that. And it was a one-man band mostly. And the channel was, until recently, was under my name, just Mahyar Tousi, 2 years ago. Then I slowly changed it to Tousi TV as a branding. But now, we have a bigger plan now, because I've been approached by other like-minded people who also have the same goal as the rest of us, and we are now building something huge that we haven't done in this country. We are building a new, it's not just a media outlet, we're going to call it a Tousi TV Plus as well, but it's a revolutionary movement, it's a grassroots movement. We're going to have studios, we're going to have a small team to help other independent creators, independent reporters to also use that as a hub. We're going to use it as essentially the hub that Karl Marx had for all the mini communists. We're going to do our own version. We're going to start the revolution here. And then the idea is we know people want to be involved. We know people want to be informed. And they're still being disappointed by every single media outlet. Even the new ones. Even the new ones, yeah. So, but there is a potential there. We have the right ideas. We just needed the infrastructure. Now we have the ideas. And obviously we're going to keep it mostly grassroots. We're going to have essentially like a Netflix format where I don't believe in getting a lot of people and money from people randomly. £5, something like that, £3 a month fixed. But you're going to give them things that they actually want. We're working on a documentary, the first exclusive documentary on TCTV Plus called Britain's Multiculturalism Myth, which we're going to go around London, Birmingham. We're going to show my background, my upbringing in Southeast London, where I was. I'm going to show my school and all that. But we're going to show you even the changes between early 2000s and now. Even that has been huge.
And people need to look at where that goes in 15 years.
And where it could go, the change, yes, within 20 years. Forget about between Enoch Powell and now. Think before 20 years ago and now. And what could happen 20 years from now. And it's all about that.
Will that be open for everyone to watch? Is that going to be, are people going to have to subscribe to see that content?
So,
or they subscribe to extra content?
So yeah, we'll be releasing the short segments of that, obviously on YouTube for free. But of course, because it's a grassroots and all self-funded, we kind of need that kind of investment from people to kind of join to get the full content on TCTV Plus.
Because you need to fund the work you're doing.
But it's worth it. I mean, you go to Odeon or Cineworld to see a movie. It's £20 now apparently.
Yeah.
Well, you pay £5 and you get all the different shows, and we're going to have different presenters. We're going to have debate shows. I'm doing something on purpose. I want to basically introduce shows and stuff and content that even the new channels, even like GB News, are doing, that they're doing it wrong. I want to show them why they're doing it wrong. When they have a debate on Talk TV or GB News, they do a 5-minute, and I've been invited, I've done it so many times. They get you on 5, 6, 7 minutes, shout at each other, and they say, thanks for your time. Like, I'm not finished. What is the point of that?
Yeah, you want long form discussion.
Just sit down and have a civilized conversation, yeah.
Are you prepared for the demonetization? Are you prepared for YouTube to boot you? Are you prepared for all these things? Are you thinking about these with your new vision? Are you thinking about alternatives? Are you focusing on Rumble? Are you going to... have you got a plan for this? I didn't have a plan for that. I wasn't ready for it. It was just overnight. Boom, see you later. Deleted. Yeah. I think Apple phones and Google have just done us now. So even you go on your Apple phone, you can't open our Telegram page. Telegram haven't banned us. Apple have. And I've got an Apple phone. Can't even access my own channels. Are you ready?
Well, until now...
You need to be.
Yes.
Is what I'd
yes.
say.
No. Until now, I've been lucky.
Prepare.
Because these places are run by the progressives. I've been lucky until now because I was a brown guy talking about immigration. So
you were allowed to?
Yeah. Basically, they didn't see it coming.
They can't oppress you.
They're like, surely he's not a fascist. But now, I'm becoming more known. Without jinxing it, the one good thing that's going on right now, I do have a personally good relationship with YouTube. I have an account manager. It's not some sort of Illuminati thing. It's just they like my work because I get enough views, they get enough ads. It's a win-win for them. They just don't want me to say COVID was fake, for example. They're basic lines. And I'm like, fine, I don't want to say that. It's China virus anyway. But you're right. I mean, as we go, recently I continue to get death threats all the time, whether emails or letters into my letterbox actually.
Through into your house, so your house is public knowledge.
Yeah, regularly, yeah.
So you weren't ready for none of this. See, luckily my activism started in 2009, so I went through I went through 5, 6 addresses in the first few years.
Yeah.
But then I found wherever I live, can't be on the paper, can't be on the electoral roll, can't have bills there, can't have mail there.
Yeah, but the reason I mentioned the death threats is because recently I've been getting threatening messages, emails and letters about also them trying to push my bank, my PayPal and all these companies to cancel me. I'm more worried about banking and about the basic stuff. And because if you lose that, all the people who went through the banking scandal, that is harder. You get kicked out of YouTube, I could get all my followers to please join my new website. that's fine.
You need to do that now. You
Yeah.
need to be getting them to go onto an email database so you can
Yeah.
contact them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan now. So we're going to launch the new website, 2CTV website. It's going to be fresh, and it's going to be, obviously, that's the free website. We're going to have news articles and everything else. But I'm going to basically have like a newsletter thing, or getting people to sign up with their emails to also register their interest for the upcoming 2CTV Plus platform, which will be the behind the paywall on the same website. But at least I'll know how many people will be interested.
Yeah.
And we can actually form a community there as well. So, it's not really, I'm not Amazon or Apple. I'm not stealing data to, like, I don't know, spam you with nonsense.
No, you need it, because otherwise you'll get censored. When I got censored, I had all these millions of people who follow me who then can't reach. I still see people commenting now saying, I can't believe I found you again. I haven't found you for years. If I had their emails, I would have known, they would have known where I was.
Exactly.
So you need to keep in contact with them. Where are people going to be able to, if people are watching this, where can they support you? Where can they find you?
So right now it's just a YouTube, obviously depending on when this is going to go out. So the website will be launched very soon. But for now it's just YouTube.
And the website is 2ctv.com?
Yeah, so the current one is 2ctv.com, but then we're going to have a new one with a different domain. Okay. But YouTube, obviously, 2ctv, Tousi TV. And we're there, and all the information will be there, and big announcements coming up. Yeah.
Great. Let me just get one more, your opinion on the way London's been protests. The protests have been policed. What's your experience been?
I find it hilarious, like ludicrous, because I speak to police officers and veterans as well, and former police officers who come to me, and they say they are frustrated. They are blaming partly the command and the leadership, but partly some of the fellow police officers who are slightly more progressive. They are putting pressure on the bosses. That oh no, we shouldn't do this or we should do this. So what they are telling me is that they are all over the place.
Progressive or scared?
Yeah, I mean they're all over the place.
Progressive or scared? The police officers who are putting demand or are fearful of basically implementing the law. Is it because they're progressive or they're scared?
There's also a thing about policing in this country, especially the last 20, 30 years, when it became softer and more civilized compared to like the poll tax riots when they were just beating everybody up. It's created a situation where the police officers individually want to be like police officers, to just be robust if someone's doing something bad. But when the crowd is bigger, when there's a mob, they just contain it. When it's one person, whether it's someone having breakfast in London before a pro-Israeli protest, or whether it's some Iranian British guy who's holding a sign saying Hamas is terrorist.
He's here tomorrow.
It's not because the actual police officers, for example, hate you individually or hate that person individually. It's that subconscious, is that one moment they have, they're like, oh, it's finally just one person. We can actually just grab them. I think there's something about, because the policing, you need certain personalities, and they want to be more aggressive and do things, law and order. And they are being prevented when it's a big mob. So they get it out of their system. When it's one person who's actually trying to cooperate.
They get all excited.
They get excited, basically. We're all human. We're like, finally, I can grab someone, finally. And it's weird. The amount of pressure they put, it's not just what happened to you, it's not just what happened to Narek Vorbani. There was this little girl, 16-year-old girl, a few months ago, who told his mum that this police officer looks like my lesbian grandmother, lesbian nan.
She was autistic. I've never been so outraged watching that film.
They dragged her out of the house.
I've never been so outraged watching
20
that.
police officers.
It was disgusting.
Yeah.
It was disgusting.
Yeah, but there's no accountability. That's the thing. That is the issue. Because we, and some of us, when we speak out, we seem like we focus too much just on the police commissioner, for example, and these people. I think there should also be, again, it's the job of MPs as well. MPs should also pinpoint and say, okay, what was the list of the police officers in that incident? What are you going to do about them? That is the thing as well. And the person, the supervisor who gave the order. They have to hold them to account as well. It's not always just Mark Rowley.
No, of course.
He's not always on the ground.
Oh, this is the bloke who pepper sprayed me in the eyes.
I mean, that was just insane. Who gave that order? If that was rogue, that police officer should be scrutinised. If it was ordered...
Do you know what he said in his statement? I've told you, innit?
What was
he
it?
said I was about to break free from lawful custody. I was handcuffed. There's 30. What are you talking about?
Also, it was so crowded. Where are you going to run to?
It's like, but it's mental. Can I ask you as well, just as we're here, this because you spent Armitage Day at that demonstration with me.
Yeah.
You live streamed the entire event.
Yeah.
Was you shocked? Did you realise, was you shocked when you saw the way my presence was reported compared to the reality of the day?
Yeah, so obviously on Remembrance Day, we were there. You organised a number of tanks and you brought all the guns and we all started. That was a moment when, obviously, a while before that, and we started talking and everything else, I already knew about the propaganda and all the cancellations and nonsense about you over the last few years. But that was the first time I saw it firsthand, that's how easily they could do it. I was there. Luckily, the video is still on YouTube. It's like an hour, 2 hour like live stream where I was literally just following you guys. Nothing happened.
We were totally calm. We were trying to help the police.
Yeah.
Calm situation.
And the stories that came out, but they were so detailed. I love it. The allegations, they were so detailed, and that's how they do it. They don't just say, oh, they were there and caused chaos. They're like, no, they were there. They threw 10 missiles and 5 tomatoes.
I saw last week on GB News that we threw petrol bombs.
Yeah, and you burned Quran outside mosques.
But
where are the videos?
what was that like for you to watch after spending one day at a demonstration bus to then watch how it was reported? Was it an awakening moment? Was it for you? It's like, what's going on?
It kind of helped with my self-righteousness and what I do and what I have to do. It kind of helped that I'm in the right and we have to continue this. It just confirmed what I already had a feeling about.
And the importance of citizen journalism.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean we're always right. Sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we might have the wrong opinion or whatever. But that's the whole point of a free society and free journalism, free speech. Let everybody say and let everybody report, and then you can challenge each other. That's the whole point. And the current situation is getting really ugly now, because when I realized how easily they could spin something like
change what happened, totally just make it up.
Yeah,
and then that story that they're pushing is just pumped to the whole country.
Yeah, well, they could do it with me.
They
could do it with anybody now. They could, and they make it believable but vague. It's fascinating. They would say you burn a Quran outside a mosque, but they won't have to say which mosque, what day,
or when.
Yeah, it's detailed enough but vague. So it's the Ministry of Truth.
Well, I think it's so important. Citizen journalism, as so many people say, is important, that people are there documenting. You've been documenting a lot of demonstrations, protests. You're everywhere. You're everywhere. So, well, Mr. Tousi, I've enjoyed our discussion.
Thank you very much.
And I absolutely am. Intrigued. I'm excited to see where you go, because I can see you going like this.
Yes. Well, I'm going to the bar now. So.
You're going to the bar. My only advice was be ready.
Yes.
Because as you grow more powerful, and power comes with followers and listeners.
Yes.
I can see you're gaining a huge following.
Yeah.
They will try to demonise you, slander you, attack you in every way possible, and put pressure on you.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. That's what I wanted to hear. So let's go to the bar. I'll get myself another hot chocolate. If you're watching this, these new characters rising up in citizen journalism make me happy. They should make you happy. There are so many more voices now talking the truth about politics, about demonstrations, giving you the alternative view to what the media want, challenging the narrative. So these gentlemen need your support. Don't just want your support, they need it. Make sure they grow. So if you watch this, I'm grateful for giving me the ability to sit down with characters like this. I'm grateful that our voices are growing, alternative voices are growing, and you make that possible. So thank you, and please like and share this everywhere. Yeah? Cheers. Tousi again. Thanks.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
Carry on watching for more interesting guests. I'll talk to anyone. I'll debate anyone. I'll hear anyone's story. If you want to help me along that way, it's not free. I need your support. If you can support my family, that gives me my peace of mind. It means I can continue to do the work I do. I appreciate every bit of support, as do my children. It gives me the ability to fly them out here to see me so I can stay in constant contact with them. I'm deplatformed and I'm censored, so I need you. I need you to share this content. And make sure you stay tuned for upcoming weekly guests, interesting guests, exciting guests. I'm Tom Robinson, and this has been my podcast, Silenced.